Hi, my name is Susanna Hamner, and I am here with Richard Garriot, a legend video game developer, and I'm just asking him about the new world of gaming. So Austin is the #3 destination for gaming, and why is that exactly?
Well, in my mind, it's great that we're #3, but I wish we were #1 or #2. But Austin is a very unique city in that the computer game field, in my mind, is the quintessential high-tech art. And Austin has a long history as both a high-tech center as well as a center for the arts. And so, I go back to the beginnings of the game industry here in Austin, and when we opened our first studio here in town, it was very obvious that Austin was going to be a great place to build and grow a computer game industry.
And you were one of the pioneers for Austin to have a video game industry here with Origins. And so can you give me a little history about that?
Yeah, my brother and I formed our first game company, Origin, in 1982, and we moved it here to Austin in '85. And when we first came here to town, we were the only entertainment software company within, I believe, about 1,000 miles. So we were the first in the region. And and though we had started the company a few years previously, and we had operated out of my parents' garage in Houston for a while. We operated in the Northeast for a while because that's where my brother's wife was. But when we opened the Austin office, or when a few of us who couldn't stand the cold weather up in the north moved back here to Austin, we grew gangbusters. It was very obvious that the pent-up demand for people who wanted to be in this industry was enormous. And we've had people literally knocking on our doors who were saying, "Hey, I've heard that you are down here now. I want to be in this industry. Can I come help?" And it literally was that kind of, we weren't doing marketing for people. People just came.
Wow. And then you sold Origin to EA in
1992.
92, sorry about that. And so did that really spawn the major growth of the industry, or was it already growing beforehand?
It was already growing. In fact, as any industry matures, in the case of the computer game industry, I would call that first era, as I refer to it, the solo player gaming era. It really took about 20 years, from 1980 to close to 2000, to really mature and shake out who the top 10 players were. And Origin was always one of the top 10 players, usually number 10 of the top 10. But as an industry matures, 10 is actually quite a large number of competitors, you might say. And most mature industries only have 3 to 5, surviving top competitors. And that was one of the reasons why we ended up selling to Electronic Arts, is that you, just to have access to the distribution channel, you need to be affiliated with one of the top 3 or 5 companies. So we weren't quite large enough to remain independent indefinitely.
Okay. So our claim to fame in Austin is that we're the music capital of the world, but there have been rumors that that claim to fame could be surpassed as the video game industry of the world.
Yeah, and I think, again, I go back to what are the real foundational roots of this town. Of course, we're a great arts community. Of course, we're a great music city. The prominence of Austin music is, I think, phenomenal. So but I think it's a stretch to today say that the games industry is what I'll call very threatening to the preeminence of the music scene here in Austin. However, Austin really is also a high-tech town, and has, even for at least as long as it's been a music town, been a high-tech center. And so games, this is really truly the perfect town for games. We have the right kind of atmosphere, corporately, politically, industrially, to really flourish as an industry. But there's a couple key pieces we need to put together yet. I mean, we have the core talent. We have lots of studios emerging to put together really interesting games, especially in the eras of multiplayer activities and now the new web activities. I think we have a strong leadership position. But the key ingredient we so far have missed here in Austin is what I will call the financial backing to support it. Most of the big publishers and financing of games has come from California.
Right.
And the result of that is that whenever there's a contraction within the industry, everybody dumps their satellite organizations and pulls things back to their core head office.
Right.
And as long as those head offices are in California, Austin sees a feast and famine every 5 to 7 years.
Right.
And that's what we need to fix if we want to truly grow.
And do you predict that in 5 years that will happen in Austin, that there will be a major decline?
Well, so I've lived through this industry since the beginning of this industry. So I've seen this, it's really about a 7-year cycle. I've seen this 7-year cycle over and over and over again. So this is nothing new to me, and I see nothing to abate it. So do I predict it will happen again? Absolutely, because I've already lived through a few of these already. And I don't really see us breaking that cycle. And we won't break the cycle until we begin to build corporate headquarters and the financial backing of development within our own community. And again, that's why I believe we're number 3 versus number 1 or 2, is that we have yet to fill out that part of the dance card of this industry.
So are industry experts like you working on creating a big publishing house like the next EA?
Well, we do. You know, I've hopefully started a company just months ago that may and I hope grow to be one of those that in this next era can remain one of the larger, more independent, organizations. But also just from what I'll call within the local political community, many of us have evangelized, you might say, to our local, whether it's the city council or state representatives, about these issues to try to put incentives in place like there are for the movie industry and other industries. The offers to the games industry are are many steps below what is offered to the film industry, or even just what I'll call the core high-tech manufacturing industries. Those are courted much more heavily than our industry. Although that's changing, and we are doing some, and we are bringing. We've had some success in bringing other studios into town, but the studios, while great and do provide jobs, what we really need is the corporate headquarters, and that's so far remained elusive.
Right. And then what about the synergies between the music and film and gaming industries here?
You know, there's a lot of talk. I hear people refer to that all the time, and there's definitely a relationship between these two industries, and there's some jobs that are directly overlapping. For example, the people that do 3D graphics for movies and games are effectively identical people, and there's many people who move back and forth between these industries as employees. However, the similarities quickly diminish. We use some of the same terminology, producer and director, but they don't mean the same thing. And as it turns out, other areas that you might think there'd be overlap, like writers, it turns out, you would think that a good screenplay writer might be able to write good dialogue for a game, and at least in my historical analysis, that has so far not proven to be true. The unique qualities of interactive storytelling are so much different than linear narrative in a book or in a movie that someone who writes good prose for a book and or a movie does not in any way indicate that they'll be a good writer for a game. Okay. And so these industries are very close, little overlap, but strong differences as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And you can see Richard at the panel titled The New World of Gaming at the AT&T Conference Center on November 9th at 6 p.m.